What is going on, everybody? It is the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to all of our content here. We are bringing you another college fantasy best ball run by Underdog, Best Bowl Mania. Tournament's almost filled, so we got to get in our reps. Today, it's not just me and Matt. We are joined by a very special guest, one of the college fantasy OGs, the man who brings the energy, the knowledge, more importantly, excellent beard eye skills. Some know him as Prop Daddy. Two-time FSWA College Sports Writer of the Year. The man we all know and love. Friend of the show. Friend of mine. Friend of Matt's. Eric Froton. You can find him at CFF Froton on Twitter. He works with both NBC Sports, Roto World. Has an awesome fantasy point show that really is Froton plus three of the sharpest minds you know. He just dropped his top 250 best ball rankings by tier. So, Froton, you've been doing this since the early 2000s. You've been integral to the growth of college fantasy. You've dealt with the ups, the downs. When Yahoo had it, when Yahoo took it away, other providers and restrictions, all done by the NCAA. 2 or 3 years ago, 4 years ago, did you think we would be drafting on one of the biggest platforms in really the world like we are now?
I dreamed about it, but if you asked me a couple of years ago, there really wasn't much on the horizon for us to get excited about. It wasn't like ESPN was knocking on the door. You know, we've kicked on the CBS. We've checked them out, and they did do college fantasy back from 2009. Well, I think it's 2012. So we did have some previous buy-in from them, but we haven't seen much since then. And obviously, Sleeper has been a straight up dead end because they already have a large part of that NFL market share, and they don't need any more of what we got because they already got those customers. They feel like it, as opposed to putting together those C2C leagues. So with all the headwinds we've faced on the college fantasy and C2C front, I certainly didn't see it just dropping in our laps randomly without any fanfare, coinciding with the release of the video game. So I suppose we have EA Sports once again to thank for putting out the video game, helping to get the interest, the buzz generated, the 12-team playoff. I mean, it just feels like we're coming. College fantasy, C2C, it feels like it's our time. We had the Dynasty Revolution about 5 years ago here, and now I talked to people at the Scott Fishbowl drafts, and I had a couple nice gentlemen talk about 16 different Dynasty teams, and I asked them if they have C2C, and they're like, what's that? And I'm like, dude, you have 16 Dynasty teams? You don't have a C2C team? Come on, brother. What? That can't happen anymore, and we have to make sure that we reach that audience. So I'm just glad we have the best balls here. Thank you, Underdog. Bless you.
Seriously. 2 weeks ago, I think to the day, they dropped this like 3 hours before the video game. Like that, that's a milestone day for college football, period.
Milestone. Absolutely.
Really, really fun. So I've been enjoying the show that you've been doing with. Yesterday, you did it with Josh Chevalier over at Fantasy Points. You've done a couple of them now. We've done a couple. We've all done a bunch of drafts. High level, quick. What are your takeaways from this tournament, the setup, what the offering is in general? The prize pool is 20,000. The field is like 1,100 plus or 11,000 plus. So what are you thinking as you approach these drafts?
Geez, what am I thinking? Many, many things, I would suppose here, Mox. God.
I would hope so.
I would say the schedule is now so vital because you and I have been in the 12 different expert best ball drafts that are done with 30 roster spots as opposed to 20 here. So right out of the gate, the limited amount of roster spots means it's more and more important to properly space out your buys. Whereas with 30 roster spots, I feel like you're going to naturally cover them when you have 10 running backs, 10 wideouts. You're going to basically have things fill out. I pay attention to them, but not with the vigor and the pinpoint accuracy that you have to do so for the buys in this format. Because, again, you only have 20 spots, and everybody in college fantasy, we're accustomed to 30, 40, 45 spots, depending on the size of the Dynasty League, depending on the format, depending on the amount of teams. So With the restricted roster, you have to hit on as many spots as you can. So it does certainly incentivize taking maybe a little bit more risk than I would be, usually want to do in our leagues where, as you know, I finished in second place for the Champions League best balls last year. Just missed Zach Hall, my co-host. He beat me, but finished in second place. And frankly, the certainty, getting in the back end from rounds 20 to 30, being able to hit guys who maybe aren't sexy, but are just very dependable. The Alan Bowmans of the world, hitting on like a Chandler Rogers, hitting on an Aguiar from Appalachian State. Those type of guys last year were the type of players that you could get down the board that were especially impactful on successful dynasty teams and successful best ball teams. Now, Power 4 player landscape. We're cutting that down. We have 70 teams, I believe. Is that correct? My math could be off, but I think it's right around there.
70, 71-ish, because we include Notre Dame.
We have the Pac-2 that come in.
Yeah.
How did they squeeze in, by the way, Moxley? They're playing a Mountain West schedule.
Listen, I don't make the rules. I simply adhere to them. So we do have access to those quote independent teams, which are really just Notre Dame and 2 fancy Mountain West schools. But I mean, this tournament is so different than anything that you and I have done, especially because we do a lot of best balls in the off season. And you just ran one that's 16 teams, Power 4 only, which was great prep, by the way. For this.
It really did. It did kind of baptize us by fire. I found myself looking at that draft board, the P4 draft board, while I was going through the first set of these best balls. Obviously I didn't need it to look at Darius Taylor at number 240. I figured that one out, fairly quickly. But for the rest of it, it certainly set some nice benchmarks and gave me, I feel like a nice little advantage that we had going earlier.
I thought so too. I thought when we came in, we'd already done, I'd probably done at least 20 drafts. And so I felt like I had a really good handle on ADP versus where the rest of the market, I think, was in the first couple of days. Matt, I haven't come to you yet. You've joined me on a lot of these streams.
I have. Yes.
You are not in the college fantasy best ball world the same way that Eric and I am.
Correct.
What is your takeaway from, you started when I did day 1 drafting.
More like day 3.
2 weeks
but
later.
No, I think I waited a couple days.
Whenever you joined us in the lovely world of college fantasy best balls.
I mean, it's interesting for me to look at it because I definitely feel like I'm part of that crowd who doesn't know what they're doing. So it's been fun listening to like Froton, Josh with the CFP show with you guys, or the Fantasy Point show with you guys. Obviously, you, Mox, Chris K, Ethan are 3 people I also listen a lot to, and just trying to learn this because again, I've always approached these from a C2C perspective, which is completely different. You don't want to go from a C2C perspective on here, so it's been fun. Kind of learning more and more about not even just the college fantasy side of things, but the different approach even in best ball that you take in here than you were if you were doing like a college fantasy dynasty draft, just even maybe like a college fantasy redraft league. I feel like even then your attempts to go at this is different with the bye weeks, something I didn't know anything about. Mox, the first show we did, I didn't pay attention thinking I think it was like 10 or 11 of my players have a week 12 bye. Found out that's a really bad thing for me this year. So like it's
a bad thing for everybody. Yeah. Don't feel bad about that, Matt.
Like I was straight rankings draft that first time. I was like, cool, I'm just gonna go straight rankings. We'll just go best player available. And then I realized that stuff. So it's been an interesting kind of learning curve for me. I feel like, interestingly enough, I think the last one that I did with you, Mox, was probably my favorite team. Outside of that, I actually think my favorite team is that first draft. Obviously, again, it's probably not going to win anything with all the players on the week 12 bye, but it's just been, I don't even know how to explain it. It's very interesting. I do NFL best balls, and I feel like this is more challenging, and maybe that's because there's no kind of like set real ADP people. We've seen people reaching those. Like we've obviously been in a bunch with Bud Elliott, Chris, from the Cover 3 podcast. And he's talked about like, sometimes you'll see players go way before you expect them to, where the NFL, you kind of have a general idea of where all these players are going. So you can kind of pick and choose who you want on your team. It's just been very interesting to see how these players go. I'm excited to see how this one goes. I don't think I've ever drafted with Froton outside of a C2C league that we were in until I had to leave it last year. But like even when I was in Thor's 50 teamer thing, like we weren't in the same division or anything. So like I've never really seen how Froton drafts. I'm excited to see how he kind of handles a live draft and how everything goes. And you know, if he ends up liking my team, is really what all I care about at the end of the day. Whatever my team ends up with today, I just hope that he approves of it.
Hey, it's all in good fun, man. This
It
is
is, yeah.
part of the fun. This is a national platform, as Mox talked about. So I can't wait to get after it. This is everything we've asked for.
I do have a question for you, Froton. I know Mox has had like his guys that he's drafted. Jay in the chat mentions Cam Cook, who I have 100%
Dude,
on
Cam
all
Cook
of my.
has been an absolutely a best ball underdog all-star.
Exactly.
Cam
Yeah.
Cook.
I mean, I've got him 100%, you know, rostered on all of my teams. Is there a couple players that you have either 100% roster that you try to get every time, whether it's because of ADP or you just believe we're going to have an amazing season this year?
You know, I see Preston Stone falling a lot, which has to do with his 3 buys, as we all know. Those dreaded buys. Everybody knows which teams. It's Georgia Tech, who Moxley. Everybody who waited for Moxley to mention Georgia Tech and their schedule, take a drink. I know you're out there because you've all been watching these things just like I have, and we hate that Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket schedule just as much as the rest of you. So definitely avoiding those guys. But I feel like Stone, and he has a nice little stretch run for that 12, 13, 14. You know, you can cobble together a pretty good room around him, but given he's going almost at double digits, you know, I'm seeing 9th, 10th round in a lot of what I'm doing. I feel like the bang really fits the buck because I've gotten to watch. I'm in that aforementioned 50 teamer. I'm in the AAC and Big Ten, right? But I've been going through all my different work for all the different stuff. I watched a ton of Preston Stone over the course of the past few days, and man, he's really good. He's really good. And I think like maybe someday throws a great back shoulder ball. I'd like to see him maybe doing a little more leading of receivers when he's going downfield, but I feel like it might be indicative of the talent level of who we saw at SMU. But a lot of those back shoulder fades, he was just crushing them. Romello Brinson, Jordan Hudson, Jake Bailey. I really enjoyed watching him. So for QBs, I would say Preston Stone. And I'll actually let Mox, where are you on this here? Are you on the board? Oh, you're already picked.
This is the first time I've taken Gabriel, actually. Well, I've probably taken him 1 or 2 times. But I am a wait on quarterback guy in general. And I think that you share that same philosophy.
I do, usually.
We're at the 108, and we've seen 4 quarterbacks go already. So I have a feeling we know
we're bucking the trend here today. Absolutely.
This draft is going. I generally find myself waiting till if I don't get one of Garrett Nussmeier, Cam Ward in the late 4th, early 5th, I'm waiting another 2 rounds to get the Riley Leonard, Grayson McCall types. I think there's a big difference in the way that people are approaching this. One is I think you have a lot of experienced college fantasy drafters saying we can just wait on quarterback because I think we have a better understanding of the situation. A lot of the DFS players, a lot of the NFL DFS guys are coming in and saying, well, we got to take quarterback as early as possible, get 4 or 5 of them in the first 5 rounds. I think that's aggressive, and I don't necessarily agree with that. And you dropped your rankings.
Correct.
And I think we're on the same page that quarterback is just going too aggressively. Am I off base here?
No, I'm right there with you, and I do agree. And like you said, I've seen Noose go, who is a guy that I love. Gosh, do I have my shares of Garrett Nussmeier across all spectrums of CFF? But with him, I've actually seen him slide into like the 6th round. I've managed to get some pretty good deals on Noose, at least early on, and kind of take advantage of that marketplace. So I have him on quite a few of my teams as well. And I just think being able to, I want to wait as far as I possibly can, and I understand with the 4-point passing touchdown format, there's limitations there, but God, if I can put him in the aforementioned Stone together for the QB room, I'm ready to roll for that. I mean, that's a pretty nice situation, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's limited rushing upside with those two, but
Yeah.
4,000 passing yards is in the range of outcomes, 30 plus touchdowns, I think, for each. That'll play, even though it's four passing touchdowns. I'm right there with you. I think those are guys that I have a lot of exposure to. And I think where our experience comes in handy, which is, we've done 20 of these already this offseason, if not more, is at value. I think we're pretty good at identifying players, right? So I see Shedeur Sanders go in the second round. I think he's fancy Garrett Nussmeier. And I think you're Shedeur Sanders off the board at 2.6, as I said.
That's wild. It's not happening in our expert best balls. Because I know I have all of his shares. And I'm getting him in the 9th, 10th round. I think I got him in like the 11th. I think it was just I was going to wait and see, like, all right, is someone else going to take him? And no, I got him in double digits. So it's the same basic format, and it's 12 teams, and I'm getting him in the 10th round in our expert leagues, and he's going in the second round here. I understand that it's not the full G5 as well, but my God, it doesn't correlate to me. That's just way too high.
That is one of the values that stick out to me. Is I'm not really sure I get it.
I love him.
I do too. I think they're going to pass a little bit less, and I'm not sure there's a material difference between him and. Is there really a material difference between him and Preston Stone? I mean, there is probably uncertainty, but not really.
No.
So a lot of I think that's the biggest difference that I've certainly seen, which is quarterback is valued substantially differently depending on what your background of experience
is. As we are speaking, he goes 18 overall, Shedeur, right here. It's wild. It's wild to me. KJ, there we go. Donovan Edwards. Oh. He keeps going. I love that odd value at 20 for Fabian to Oblivion.
Don't take my guy, Mox.
Why not?
Don't do
Here we go, Mox. Here we go. The two of you are right next to each other. This is great.
Son of a
Restrepo throat.
That's who I
and
wanted.
I don't love the bye week situation on Restrepo, but I mean, like, I really like Restrepo, so I'll just figure that out later. I think he's a really good. I mean, I love stacking that Miami offense. If you can get Cam Warner to value.
Let me ask you, because of your take on the wide receiver room, I went and I crunched a lot of numbers. I watched a lot of tape on Jacoby George and your boy Sam. All right. It's your boy Sam, the transfer. Where are we at in most of the drafts you're seeing in terms of the discrepancy between the two? Has the gap narrowed due to the Moxley propaganda machine on our boy Sammy transferring in? Or is it still a pretty wide discrepancy from what you've seen?
I think we're still talking 4 or 5 rounds.
Io Manor. Boom. That's a beauty. Why not? He keeps going up the draft boards. He just keeps shooting up.
Is there a reason not to take him? His playoff schedule is beautiful. He is by far the wide receiver 1 in the offense. I mean, there's a lot to like about him, unless you're concerned about Ashton Daniels, which I know you're a big fan of the freshman coming in there, right?
I love Elijah Brown. You know, I think he's really good, and he's a good kid. He's got a good head on his shoulder. But he probably needs a little time. So Daniel's going to get his shot. He'll be at least serviceable for the first 8 games, and I agree. Troy Taylor. I mean, you look at the success he had at Sacramento State. I'm in on Stanford. I believe they're over under. Are they 3.5?
They are.
Dude, I like that over.
Friend of the show, friend of the program, our guy Franchise
Kale
gave out the over today on Stanford. I think that's one of
my
favorite plays.
Yep, I'm in.
I'm just so in on the Stanford team. Like, I've been drafting a crazy amount of. If I don't get Amenor, I'm drafting Cedric Irvin. I'm drafting Ashton Daniels late. Ashton Daniels goes so late in these.
Yeah, it's too much, especially considering he's got some wiggle to his game too, and we want to. If we're going to shoot, I'd like to get a little bit of rushing upside in the back end because, I like my gunslingers like we talked about. So I am a little disappointed I can't get Jalen Daniels at the smoking values we were getting him in the early going, just because of that sheer. If his back is healthy, go. Just let him go. Wind him up and let him go. It could happen, and that's a league-winning shot if you can get him there. But yeah, he's kind of gone a little higher now.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing the same thing with some of the values that we really liked in those teams. John Mateer is a good example.
John Mateer. Yeah.
I mean, early on, he was going like 15th, 16th round. Now he's round 8. That's not leaving a lot of room for risk.
Yes.
So
I do think it takes the job to be blunt.
I do as well. And I have not done this, but are you planning on in any of your drafts really taking Mateer and taking Eckhouse to get the Washington State quarterback?
I would not take Eckhouse on the back end. I would just take Mateer and let it sit. I feel like where in our 30 round drafts, where we're looking to accumulate points with each of these different drafts and get the most at the end of the season, and that's how you win. And you're playing against 12 guys. Security, certainty, and just being complete is something I try to stress in those drafts. Whereas for this format, you're competing against everybody. So I'm just shooting for the moon as much as I can. I want to go for as much upside and just try to hit on everything. And if I'm going with the 5 QBs, I want to at least have the bonus of hitting that guy on the back end. Whoever it is, I don't want to take up the 2 spots. I feel like you're sucking away that advantage of having the extra bullet in the QB room. So I would way rather take a shot on somebody that matches up buys wise and has some upside. And maybe look, if you want to go with an Arch, okay, that's fine. If you want to go with the backup, that's fine, but not in my own room. I'd rather take someone else's heat away from them.
Exactly. I really could not agree more. I think entering a large tournament like this, and as soon as you leave the draft, you are down to essentially 19 spots. Like there is not a world where 2 quarterbacks are productive in the offense on a week-to-week basis, right? I mean, that's not going to happen. You've already eliminated yourself. And I don't even draft, generally speaking, from the same running back room either. I think that's a lot of the same idea. It has to be really specific to do so. And I don't think you get the values that help you pull that off either.
It's compelling points, and I'm with you. What did the ETR guys say about strategically on a couple of these points? Any of that get brought up? I apologize for not watching them.
Yeah, it's funny. So that they are really, really sharp. Like probably some of the best DFS minds in the space.
Do it more than I do. Sure, yeah,
yeah.
I tinker, but.
And so I've noticed a big divide between like our layer of thinking, which is, we have a lot of college fantasy experience. We do a lot of best balls. They're different formats, but we probably have a pretty good idea of what the player situation team is like. The DFS players, and I think the NFL best ballers are coming in and saying quarterback needs to be your priority. Wide receiver you can wait on. Running back's a little bit different. You need to stack to win, like over anything else. There's a big gulf of thoughts, and it's like a chasm. There's nobody that really is operating in between, and I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how that plays out long term because someone's probably going to be right. I'm on the generally wait on quarterback. You don't need to take them early. We know enough about the situations. Like Josh Hoover probably you're going to see similar productivity from like him and Brady Cook. There's 5-round, 6-round difference in ADP. I am not there on early quarterback, like heavy early quarterback. Obviously, I took one in Dylan Gabriel in the first round, but like heavy early quarterback. I just haven't gotten there. And I hear you say the same stuff. And
yeah,
is that a product of knowing the situation better and kind of having a really good understanding of where you think things are going to go? Or is that a product of believing in quarterback variability?
I think it's a little bit of both in that there's 70 teams in this pool. It's not 32 like the NFL. So we're accustomed dealing with, each position and the fluctuations that kind of occur with all of them. And we can generally get some pretty solid quarterbacks that we feel solid with, that we've watched obviously more than probably these guys have, that we have a sense of their actual talent level and OC movement, and maybe a little bit more certainty about the middle to bottom tier of quarterbacks than the specialists do, where their builds make sense to them and it's successful in one way. Obviously, we've had the opportunity to kind of do it a different way, and in our particular model, that isn't always the case. In fact, you see a lot of times we do wait on the quarterbacks. I just think because there's a lot of rooms that are pretty stable that we can look at on the back end and say, all right, I can value pick here, pick one here that I like, and then you can get the Hoovers and the Sorsbys and I like Curtis Rourke way down the board. And everyone has their little favorites that like we can get down the board, is how I feel like. So that's kind of probably why it's our tendency to want to say we freak out about wide receivers, freak out about them. Want to have our running backs in that round 4 through 9 range. We want to get a good solid core of them, and then pivot to the quarterbacks and tight ends.
So I think you need to go early wide receiver here in this format, because I think it dries up so quickly. And the biggest difference between NFL and college when it comes to the receiver position is the market share for the wide receiver 1 in the NFL. Like, it's really, really good if it crests 30. Like, you get consistent 35, close to 40% market share for some of these wide receivers. And that leaves a lot less for the 2s and 3s. So getting a guy with known production, to me, is a priority in the early rounds. I think you have to do that.
Certainly. And I look at the two of you and your builds, and it certainly shows here. Matt, right away, Ollie Gordon, Jordan James, getting Io Manor with Squirrel and Deion Burks, just attacking that the skill positions, and deservedly so. And then Mox, this allows you, by taking Oronde Gadsden in the 3rd round, to say, all right, this is a straight 2 tight end build, probably, I would assume, right? You're not going to roster 3 tight ends most likely in this. You at least have the option.
I am more likely, and I'm not sure how much thinking you've done about this either. I am more likely to go 1 tight end than I am 3 tight end. I think 3 tight end is, generally speaking, a bad way to approach this approach.
I agree.
The variability we know is insane at the tight end position in any sport. It's just a lot worse in college football. So I tend to think 1 tight end is possible. I just don't think 3 is. I think 3, you're probably not getting the edge that you need, considering how
you're asking for it.
Positions
you
are
really
scoring.
are. Yeah. I saw Bud. When I mean early on, Bud. I saw him do one of those 1 tight end builds, and it was fascinating. I was like, God damn, you went like Keanu Hill. I was like, man, you go an extreme 1 tight end. And I'm fascinated to see how all these teams take out, but like it got me thinking, and I was like, well, yeah, you know what? Why not? Especially if you get Gadsden, it's in play now, right? But 2 tight ends at the most, and you're in good shape. Can't wait for that.
I agree.
I will just say a little vulnerability. You got Restrepo and Presley, half PPR format, and they are obviously PPR oriented wide receivers. So, a couple of slots that are volume based. So maybe you want to, hit a couple outside wide receivers there.
Exactly. And I think with those two, it's what I really wanted was I should have taken Deion Burks there, and I didn't, or Squirrel White, and I didn't. And I went Presley thinking that I would get one of them on
and Matt wasn't having it. Matt was not having that.
I was praying you weren't going to take at least Squirrel. I would have taken Brennan if you would have taken Squirrel or Burks. So I wanted 2 of those 3. So I was going to get at least one of them.
I thought I could get away with it, and I obviously could not. So that's a lesson learned, because they are very similar profiles. Matt, to be honest, I love your team. A lot more than mine. Like, your team's way better. Like, your team is is perfect.
I'm worried about my quarterbacks right now. They're going. I mean, we've seen some weird ones too. Go, if I'm being honest, like Will Howard off the board. Was it Brady Cook went in the 3rd round, which
You're
I was
going
not
heavy.
expecting. So
Yeah, for real.
I'm a little worried about who I might be able to get
Castellanos
later.
were there. Good old
but-
Casty.
Yeah. I did have a question for both of you. Jay posted it in the chat earlier since we've been talking a lot about the wide receivers, and Luke Fickell didn't give a glowing review of Will, or I should say a glowing review, but he said that he doesn't expect Will Pauling to have the year he had last year. He came on really strong at the end of the year. We know we want that slot wide receiver in the Phil Longo offense. Does that worry either of you two on him? Does that make him kind of drop down your board a little? Because I actually thought about taking him, and then I went with Ellick with Stanford, because it's like, you know what? As Chris said, he's going to be the number 1 in that offense. Like, I don't have any real concerns about him not being a focal point of that, like Luke Fickell kind of made it out to be during the Big Ten media days.
I am higher on Will Pauling, so I'm probably the bad person to answer this question. So I'd like to see what Froton has to say more than what my thoughts are.
I'm looking up. Gosh, I don't have it. I was looking up some stats. I've been doing some wonking out over the past couple of days, and I had a couple of good Will Pauling stats. But yeah, I mean, obviously that's a concern. He's volume based, and he's much like the Restrepo Presley model. It's not like he's a red zone dynamo weapon that's going to be catch and jump balls or anything, or back shoulder throws. He's working the middle of the field, and that's a volume based position. And especially for the purpose of best balls, as discussed, I want to see 80 targets. I mean, I want to see hopefully 80 receptions out of my high volume guys, and that's still only 40 points. That's half the production that you get. Is the value of those slot receivers. That's something that concerns me a little bit. And I'm in the Big Ten conference. Will Pauling went with, I believe, the 110 in the Big Ten AAC. So, I mean, that's extremely high, but it goes to show, I guess, the dearth of wide receivers there and how that kind of correlates to best ball, where Will Pauling, he needs the volume to be able to flush out that 1st round pick territory. And what did he go here?
3? I think that's totally fine for him.
4.3. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable. I mean, actually, it was 4.3. Yeah, I can live with that. Obviously, I would rather have Eugene Wilson, obviously, because I'm a big Eugene Wilson guy. I think that's pretty well established. And I do like Travis Hunter too, but I get it with Pauling. I don't have a problem with that. It's just you don't want to hear that they're going to be backing him off of targets. That's all.
Did you take Stone there just to spite me, by the way? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the Will
nice.
Pauling.
No, I was afraid that if we were since we were talking about him at the beginning of the show, that I was going to have to deal with the actions of our conversation, which tends to happen when we have people in the draft that are drafting with us. Like,
I mean,
Jay, listen, Jay's at the other end.
He is, yeah.
Which
You're
I like.
12 seconds, Mox. Let's go.
Oh, I already drafted. That's slightly behind.
It's slightly behind. Yeah,
my bad.
I took Chris Bell at Louisville.
I thought about
rocketing up draft boards. Chris Bell, rocketing up them.
Yeah, I mean, the summer school that Bud Elliott and Cover 3 did with Louisville, it just tells you the full story of like. Mm-hmm. I was a Colin Lacey guy. I didn't hear the warnings. I didn't heed the warnings. It's on me. But yeah, I mean, Chris Bell is like, I'm fine taking him in the 7th round. I think he could easily outperform that, and I think his ADP might end up higher if we get another draft.
I mean,
I might be single-handedly moving it. Bell's ADP.
There's 3 Louisville receivers getting taken. Only one of them is going to be serviceable, and the one who is going to be a god. And
who do you expect it to be?
Froton? I kind of like Bell as well. Bell. I've never been. Colin Lacey was going in the 4th, 5th round in a lot of these early best balls that we were doing until it kind of leveled out the hype. So I was never on that train out any of those shares. And Ja'Cory Brooks is just his feet are too slow. I've seen too much tape on Ja'Cory Brooks to see his lack of fleet-footedness. Give me the upstart Bell. We heard all about him last year too. So Give it to me. Give it to me. He's got the body. He's got the frame. Let's go. Force feed him.
His ADP is 111, and I expect it to be a lot closer to like 75 within like a week or so. Once it's assuming we get another tournament, which I think we're getting kind of close to the season, so I wonder if that actually comes to fruition. But if we do, I think his ADP is going to be quite different. And Felix will like that I asked about this player specifically, but Rocco Becht, kind of insane value. No,
smoking deal. Absolutely. Rocco Becht is one of those guys I've got a lot of shares of. He's in that Hoover class, Sorsby of the teens, the early teens sort of range, grabbing those QBs. I know that they're getting clearly pushed down the board here in this particular draft, obviously, but in most of them, you can get really nice values on all three of those guys that I like. And I think that Becht, in terms of his security, is at the top of that list. You know exactly what you're getting out of him, right? You got Knoll, you got Higgins there. Surprisingly slanted towards throwing the ball. You know, I like it.
Surprising is a good way to put it, because I did not realize how slanted they were towards the pass. And I don't think that's going to change. And I like Abu Sama too, but they have legit receivers. Okay, Matt, we're now entering round 8. There's not a quarterback on your roster. How we feeling?
I love it. A man after my own heart.
There's obviously a couple guys that I would like to make it back to me. I'm worried that you will snipe me on some of them, but there's still, there's some interesting options. Obviously you guys talked Ashton Daniels earlier in the show. Possibly we've kind of talked a lot about Hudson Card.
If you take Ashton Daniels in the 9th round or 8th round, I'm going to kill you.
I'll be honest. I'm not taking him in the 8th or 9th round. I'm going to see if I can get him a little bit later, possibly. But Hudson Card's a guy we've talked about possibly being a guy you take late to see what he does. I kind of like Daquan Finn as maybe a last round pick. He's a guy I think's been going a little bit late. Peyton Thorne's still there. So there's a couple guys. I don't love, like I said, I really wanted Preston Stone on that last turn. You took him. I would have definitely taken him over Fields. Yeah, I know I can tell you're really upset about taking him from me. So yeah, I don't love it, but I also really like my running back and wide receiver core. So like I can't be too upset with it right now, to be honest.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I love those plans.
I agree. I think you could build enough quarterbacks later, but I don't think you want to max the position. We've talked about how many to take, how many is too many. I think 6 is probably more than I want to be drafting. I think 5 is the right number. I think 4 is a little too risky.
Wow, look at Hoover there at 8-1. Bye-bye Josh Hoover deals. The bargain bin on Josh Hoover is over.
That's what Jay was saying. That Jay who picked him, he said that he feels he has to reach on his guys being at that 12th pick, which I don't disagree with Jay. I think Mox probably agrees with me on picking on the whole other end. It's the same thing. Like you're just like, if there's a guy I really want, I'm going to have to take him because the chances are he's not going to come back to me.
Like, do I love 6th round Preston Stone? Not really. Did I feel like I could wait on quarterback? Not really.
No.
It just you get boxed in, I think.
Yeah.
Based on how
you got to get one at that point. You have to go and spend one of those top 7 picks. I get it.
Before go ahead, Mox.
And then Matt. The thing is, Matt can go bang bang. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask what your 2 thoughts are on. So Ross in the chat says our thoughts on Daquan Finn, that we liked him at Toledo. He was really good at Toledo. Do you guys worry about him coming over to Baylor and being able to kind of succeed at least in that way in the Big 12?
I do. Yes. I have some concerns, without a doubt. You look at him last year and with Shapen, Jeff Grimes. They threw the ball a lot more than I think anyone expected. They threw for 263 yards per game. And I don't think anybody kind of looks at Baylor and says, oh, yeah, they're out there chucking around, air it out offense. But they also were their defense was pretty brutal. They were pretty damn bad last year. And because of that, they did have to have kind of a little more of a pass-heavy script. Obviously, I don't think you see that same style of play that you did from last year, where you're just throwing it all the time. Obviously, you have Jake Spavital coming in. Uh, we'll see how that all kind of works out, but I like Finn's legs more than I liked his arm at Toledo. So I question about how he'll be able to transition on that front, making the reads and going through all that sort of a thing in the Big 12 with a team that's like, I don't know, kind of retooling in Baylor. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a reason why Finn is going later on. I do have some shares, but that's in like, geez, in our best ball leagues mocks, I want to say he's going in like around 2021 now. He's kind of steadily dropped from around 15, 16 to like 22, 23 even at times. So
Yeah.
we've seen him really fall. Wow, what a nice 1-2 by Matt.
That was a good. Matt's killing it.
That's
I gotta
what
be
you
honest.
do. I love it. This is why you wait on QBs, guys. Boom.
Connor
Material
Wegman
Wegman.
in the ninth round is crazy considering Brady Cook, Shadur Sanders, like our top 30 picks.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely.
Connor Wegman has very similar upside, and you're getting 7 rounds of discount. I just find that hard to believe. I've drafted a lot of wide receivers already. I took Jeremiah Smith there, which apparently is after ADP. I didn't realize that his ADP ended it is in the 8th. I haven't taken enough of him. I think there's an avenue where he is a breakout. I don't have a lot, to be honest, but I don't want to be not on the train. So I took him there. I took a lot of receivers. I think I want to end with 7. How many do you find yourself taking, Eric?
7. Try to get to 7. Go the 5, 6, 7, 2 is generally the build I'll try to go with there. And then if I'm feeling real, excitable, I'll try to squeeze in an extra one there. But that's the typical build I'm going. I don't like to. I mean, I can see going with 4 QBs, or maybe shaving off that extra tight end like you're talking about.
I will take, if I take 1 tight end, I will generally take 8 receivers. Like that's how I will allocate.
Yep, that's what
that
I'd rather
position.
have too.
And I think I tend to really like the receivers at the end of the draft as high upside shots, but I still feel like I need at least 1 or 2 in the first 5 rounds to feel really solid about my team.
At the end of the drafts, I'm almost always taking a quarterback along with 2 wide receivers, with that 18, 19, 20. So I want my running backs done by 15, 16 generally.
Yeah, they dry up really quick, especially.
They do. They hit that wall, and it's like backup land.
Yeah, I think where we are now, I think is a really nice spot to grab your RB3, 4, 5s. The 8th to 12th ish round. I think there's a lot of value there. So I've only taken 2. I have Monangai and Cam Cook. So I took Cam Cook right before Matt, because he probably would have taken him there if I didn't.
I would have, but I guess that's the karma I get for taking Cedric Irvin and killing your 100% ownership of him. So I guess I deserve that.
Such a heel.
His 8 at Irvin. Well, I like all of Stanford's offense. I think almost everyone is high on Stanford this year, and I love to see it. I'm just so excited for this offense year 2 of Troy Taylor. I think he'd be awesome.
Yeah, I get no problem with that at all. I see what you mean about the running backs. Here we are at in round 10. Parker Jenkins, Caleb Jackson. All right, it'll keep coming here, but you'll definitely want to grab one here, Mox. Another.
Oh yeah, if I don't get another one here, I'm not looking super pretty. I just think this is the drop off.
Some good wideouts. Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting to that cliff, and it was nice when the cliff used to come in round 11 and 12. There used to be just I can just wait. Oh, there's Cam Cook in round 12. I'll just take him right there, and thank you. Not anymore.
not anymore. ADP has adjusted a lot, and One question that I've kind of been throwing around a little bit, and I'd love to get y'all's thoughts on it too, is ADP efficient, or is it inflated certain positions like quarterback because of the approach that some drafters are taking? Because I tend to think it's the latter, and ADP is skewed heavily to what is optimal. But obviously, we won't know that until the end of the year and figure out what strategies work.
Yeah, it's fun. It is sort of a Wild West scenario. I think you're probably right about that, Mox. On the second front is it's a little skewed right now, but that's just how it goes. The market's gotta react to where we're at and recorrect, and we just try to move with it. And I would think at this late stage of the contest, just try to be kind of creative and attack it from kind of different positions to try to be unique, like Matt did here perfectly with his 8-9 QB combo. Boom! This is exactly why you do the late QB.
Yeah, Matt's cooking.
That's
I think I need to. I got to get you in some of these Champions League drafts, Matt. Draft my team for me.
Matt did great.
I mean, I'm a little upset that Josh Meredith went there. I was really kind of hoping to do that. I don't get a lot of stacks. Does that really matter to you, Froton? I never seem to get that quarterback wide receiver stack in these best ball drafts.
That's definitely something that you hear. I'm sure the ETR guys, they're real adherents to. And I like to try to value play my stacks. I would say I don't want to reach to get somebody that just because they happen to correlate to the QB that I have or something like that. I want my talent evaluation to win out, but at the same time, especially down the board, when it comes down to either or shots and it comes down to a 50-50 ball, well, geez, okay, I'll take this guy where I have their QB. Let's roll. Mox. There goes Cedric Irvin, buddy. I'm sorry.
Cool.
Oh, I actually misclicked. I misclicked. My bad.
Oh, misclicked. Let's go, man. Stop.
Look, Mox is a smart guy. If he thinks Stanford's going to have a great year, I want it. I was away from the screen. I didn't get to see his face.
Oh,
so he looks fine now. So I missed the anger, I guess.
I will say, Mox, that's an unforced error not taking Cedric Irvin right there. You know what Matt is going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought you were going to take him just to make sure.
You can't.
We're still 2 rounds above his ADP.
I know, but I mean, ADP went out the window when Brady Cook went in the third at this point. Yeah. Like, I'm just, going for the guys now.
I really thought I could wait there, so that kind of sucks a lot.
This is our boy Rocco Beck.
I think him in the 11th round is great value considering what's going 8 rounds
No
earlier.
problem. Kate Klubnik just went. Donovan Smith with the pacing of a snail over there with Willie Fritz. Have fun. Team's gonna get rolled this year.
Do you think that Houston is essentially, I don't want to say undraftable because that obviously everybody has value, but I don't like their range of outcomes offensively either.
Not at all. I don't like the reset going from Dana to a Willie Fritz. That slow. Oh, geez. I don't know what you want from me here. You're not going to get prolific passing numbers. That's what you're not going to get. Sorry, I'm getting a little excited. But yeah, I'm out on him from a college fantasy perspective. That being said, Mox and Matt, how do you feel about Donovan Smith getting first round buzz out there? I know my boy Ian Cummings, PFN, big Donovan Smith guy. I think he had him as his QB 2 or 3 or something like that. Can you believe this love? This major love out there for Donovan Smith. And you want
to go first, Mox? Or you want me to go?
No, because I have something definitive I want to say. So you go first.
I think it's a little too much, if I'm being honest. I think it's the
very polite.
the kind of mold and quarterback that he is. I think people want those guys now that can run and have those really strong arms. But from what I've seen, again, I'll be 100% honest. It's not like I've sat down and watched like every single snap that he has taken. But from the little bit that I watched last year, especially being as big a fan of Matthew Golden as I have over the past couple years, I mean, there were times Matthew Golden was like wide open in the middle of the field, and he could have just given him like a nice pass, and he fired it in 99 miles per hour at him. He doesn't seem to take anything off of his throws, doesn't throw it with any anticipation. I don't think he's necessarily accurate. I think his mechanics are all over the place. So I would find it, to me, it reminds me a lot of the love that like Emory Jones was getting a couple years ago. And it's like, this guy's going to go, not from the same place, but like a lot of people are saying Emory Jones was going to go in the first round because he has the tools. But like, what is this, his third year in college? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head now.
Fourth. Yeah, it's fourth.
Fourth. I don't feel like he's improved at all every single year. Like he just seems like the same guy. And at that point, I just don't. I think because what we saw with Anthony Richardson a couple years ago, and I think people forget that Anthony Richardson's a unicorn. Like he's legitimately the most athletic quarterback we have ever seen, according to all the data and all the metrics. That like people think, oh, well, they'll just find another guy just like that. I think that's harder than people think. And I think even Jalen Hurts in a way was a little bit of a unicorn. I don't think if he would have gone to Oklahoma and improved in his passing a little bit the way that Lincoln Riley showed, and we've actually seen still those what do you want to call it? Limitations, if you want to put it, on the NFL side of things with his passing. And I don't even think Donovan Smith is there as a Jalen Hurts level prospect. So for me, first round hype is a little insane. Like I think he could, if you really want a guy who's got some tools and a little bit of a project, you really want to take him day 2. I don't think there's an issue. I probably still wouldn't do that. But again, I'm not an NFL GM. So I think it's a little crazy, to be honest, but.
Okay, here's my thought. And yeah, that was really politically correct the way you said that. That was really nice. Nice of you, Matt. I think there's a better chance that Zion Chris wins that job and beats out and overtakes it from Donovan Smith than Donovan Smith going in the first round. And if Donovan Smith does go in the first round, I haven't done it yet this year. I'm gonna do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Mox.
I'm doing it. I'm getting a tattoo. If Donovan Smith goes in the first round. Listen. I don't know what it's going to be yet. Maybe we'll vote on it. Maybe we'll put a poll in our Discord or on Twitter.
Don't vote. No,
about what it should be.
Something at least you want. Just
it's got to be like the Houston Cougars logo now.
No. Wait, no, we're gonna provide options.
Oh
and
my God!
You don't provide options because everybody's going to vote for the worst option. That's
worst thing you can ever do.
I'm the
just
one
say
that's
you
gonna
will get
options.
one, and you leave it at that.
Yeah.
Don't let people choose that.
Just stick with your one that everybody loves. The duck who's going to cause problems. Like you love that, and everybody loves it. So
okay, yes, you're right.
Wild,
that's the duck. I will cause problems on purpose. Duck, where it's just a duck. It's really goose holding a knife. That's the one I'm going to get because I like that look. That's if Donovan Smith goes in the first round of the NFL draft. I've been sitting on that for a couple weeks now, stewing it over. This felt like the perfect time.
I'm glad I
break it out.
Donovan Smith, because it's true. It's wild.
I just can't get there. I understand the athleticism. I do, but like there's so much more in his game that I think needs
a lot
work.
of streakiness in that profile when it comes to watching him.
And it was great that he was in Dana's offense last year because like I think you saw a lot of things that helped him. I don't think this offense is going to be quite as helpful with Willie Fritz running the show.
Willie Fritz owes him nothing. Oh, Mox, here we go. Oh, here we go, guys. Here we go. Jack Felling.
I felt like that was on
purpose. Takes Jack Felling too in front of you, Mox.
I mean, look,
wow.
I wasn't going to, but when he took Ashton Daniels, I was like, this is war now. I'm done. I'm taking Jack Felling. As soon as I saw him take Ashton Daniels, I was like, I can wait another round of Daniels. Nope. Now it's war. Chris has declared
2 in a row. 2 bounce backs in a row, Mox. He's coming right into your kitchen.
Matt's done all these drafts with me, and I'm like, yeah, Cedric Irvin's my guy. I really like getting him late. Or Jack Veiling, I think if I take him, I feel really good. He's top 5 tight end for me, and he goes later. And then just.
I mean, look, what did I say at the beginning of the show? I really respect you, Froton, Chris K, Ethan Times, like what you guys say. So like,
I wish you respected me less.
Okay, I mean we can work on that. I can definitely respect you less.
I need you to respect me less so I can get the guys I want at ADP.
Oh, this is great. This is great podcasting.
It's just I mean,
So much disrespect. I love it. Jeremiah Love going before Jadarian Price. How you feel about that, guys?
all the Notre Dame people seem to think that he's the guy,
Yeah.
or at least the fans that I
I
interact
get
with.
nervous when oh yeah, he's taking snaps at slot. He's great receiver. That's when I heard about Chris Tyree. What happened to Chris
I was
Tyree?
gonna say
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what happened to Chris Tyree?
Well-
Nothing good. He's over there in Virginia now, right? I mean, dude, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that about Jeremiah Love. I'm concerned. I'm casting my lot behind Price.
I won't take anybody from Notre Dame's backfield. Like, I just think it's going to be just a mess.
They're losing 3 NFL draft picks off that line, man. Ooh,
Yeah, it's
I know they're Notre Dame. I know, I get it. They have a very nice schedule. Okay, I understand, but dude, they're losing a lot off that line. So
and I don't
it'll be interesting to see.
I don't love Riley Leonard either. I think there's a lot of people who are a lot higher on him, the player, than I am. So I think there's a world where Notre Dame offensively is not nearly as good as some people expect. Because, I mean, Mike Denbrock took a year, really, to get Jaden Daniels up to speed in his offense. Riley Leonard's a lot worse prospect than Jaden Daniels is. I want to caution people on Notre Dame this year, especially. Very, very concerned. Not very concerned. Concerned enough to where I'm not taking anybody except maybe Leonard because of the dual threat.
Yeah, I've heard you talk up Mitchell though. Don't lie to me, Mox.
That's true. If I take Leonard, I will stack him with Chris Mitchell late in the draft because I think Chris Mitchell's probably the wide receiver one there, and I think he's honestly not a bad player.
And he goes extremely late. I know we've talked a lot about.
Oh, he's
that.
like you don't have to draft him before the 20th round.
Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when the Notre Dame wide receiver one actually meant something. Remember that way back in those days?
Oh man, when they're
The Kevin Austin era.
I mean, I like the hire of Denbrock long term. I'm not sure it's going to come together year one. I don't think they have the receiver depth either. I mean, I don't personally like Jaden Greathouse. So where's production going to come from in this receiving room? Because when you have Jaden Daniels and you have 2 first-round wide receivers at LSU, everything is awesome. That's not what you're working with, though, with the Irish.
So you say that, but granted, I know what Scott went 3rd round. I think Pierce went 2nd or 3rd round. The wide receivers of Cincinnati with Desmond Ridder, who I don't think is any better than Riley Leonard, was also like a fairly. I mean, I remember Desmond Ridder was a college, not like the number 1 quarterback overall for college fantasy football, but a top 12, a QB1 for multiple years in a row. I mean, I think that's what you hope. I mean, again, I am not the biggest Riley Leonard fan either. I think he is wildly overrated. He's had like I guess that 1 year was fairly good, but I still thought very inaccurate. Like, I think a lot of it is just the rushing upside, and I don't know. I think you're just hoping that what Mike Denbrock did with guys like Desmond Ridder, obviously what he did with Jaden Daniels and LSU and helping win a Heisman. Granted, again, as you mentioned, he doesn't have the Malik Neighbors Brian Thomas. That was the other one. Brian Thomas on that wide receiver core. And again, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you think of Alec Pierce and Tyler Scott. I mean, they both got drafted. Like I said, I think Pierce was 2nd round. Scott, I know, was 3rd round to the Bears. So, like, maybe, I don't even know if you have a 2nd, 3rd round pick on that wide receiver core right now for Notre Dame. So maybe you are a little worried about it. I mean, I get the love for him. I don't think he's going to be that good, but.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. If you like the content, like and subscribe. I don't think I've said that enough, and I'm going to get in trouble with Felix. He's going to send me a text about it and harass me like he always does. But we're live all the time, and today we're joined by friend of the show, Eric Froton, who, if y'all want more best ball content, I mean, the CFF All Access shows you're doing is great with Josh, Mike Bainbridge, Zach Hall, right?
Zach Hall.
I just know him as CFF champs. So, yeah, there's a lot of great content over there, and I really enjoyed their best ball stuff because nobody really knows what to do. What we're doing. Nobody knows what the winning strategy looks like yet.
A foreign world, yeah. Well, we're all holding the wall down. We're on the wall. You know, we're all watching it together. We're all making sure that stuff gets out. And I'm telling you, our time is coming. I was at the FSGA last week, along with somebody you might know. What's his name? Oh, Austin Nace. So I can tell you that college football is on the radar of some of the industry heavyweights with the release of the game and the excitement surrounding the 12-team playoffs. So, who are you taking here, Moxley?
I took
running back
because I needed a running
I
back.
knew it.
And
I knew you'd take
it.
a running back. I knew you were taking a running back here. Let's see. Who's it going to be this time, Matt?
I didn't
Who's it gonna
snipe him
be?
this
Find
time.
out.
I didn't snipe him. I don't think, unless
Oh,
he wanted
wow.
Chris Hudson or Baron Morton. I don't think.
No, I think you're
I don't
okay.
think he wanted either one of those guys.
Baron Morton, listen, I'm not sure Baron Morton's arm is like attached to his body the way that they're talking
Neither
about
am
it.
I, but
Yeah,
you know, at
I don't
this
know.
point,
I don't
was
know.
But
like,
I mean,
if he stays
mean,
healthy,
right? The upside's there for him to pass for like
Sure.
40 times a game. I think in the 15th round, that's just really good. Like, you're trying to win a
Totally
tournament that
understand.
has over 11,000 people in it. Like, yes, there is risk associated with Baron Morton, but that's really late for Baron Morton. So
Yep, no problem.
I like it.
Hudson Card, a little bit of Russian upside, a little bit of sneaky Russian.
I like
Hudson
Hudson Card.
I should have
find
done it. I was going to
What?
double up Baron Morton and Hudson Card, but I decided not to and grab another wide receiver. It'd have just been funny to see you get mad again. I guess.
I only took him 46 spots ahead of ADP, but quarterback's going so early that ADP doesn't actually matter in this draft.
Yeah, you got to move with the times.
So I don't find myself doing this overtly so, but what are the thoughts on stacking in week 14? It's a big thing in the NFL. Week 14 is the final round of the playoffs. It's a smaller field. There's 96 people in there, but you still need to get there, of course.
Gotta get there. Gotta get to 96.
I don't know how strongly I feel about that, but I didn't know if you had thoughts on that, Froton or Matt.
Go ahead, Froton.
I haven't really put much, into that particular thing. I mean, obviously, I try to be cognizant of the schedules. I have my matrix open, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm on top of everything. But it takes so much just to get there. I just want to be in the dance. I just want to get a team that's good enough to get there, and then anything that can happen, it can happen. Because just the hubris to think of, let me war game 13 to make sure that I have the proper schedule, and so many things can go wrong, and the best laid plans. So I'm not saying you shouldn't be taking Oregon guys who have Washington, or you should be taking Tennessee where they played Vanderbilt or something like that. I'm not saying you shouldn't be taking those teams. I'm just saying it's not something I have focused on. Stanford guys too, right Moxley? At San Jose State, Stanford.
I find myself with a lot of Stanford. One, because I like the team, obviously. That, in case you couldn't tell by the first hour of the show. But their playoff schedule is so nice. Louisville, Cal, San Jose State.
Yeah, retooling Louisville. That team, that defense ain't there anymore for Louisville. That's a whole new ball game out there.
No, you couldn't really throw on them last year, and
no, you could not.
Now you can do pretty much anything. I think, at least.
Yeah. Well, judging from the bowl, 6 touchdowns Miller Moss and USC. God, it looks like you can throw on them, certainly.
So Miller Moss went in the 9th round,
very
here,
early.
8th round here.
I want to say he went like 6th round. 6th?
Yeah, let me
Does that
see
look
here.
right?
Oh, maybe did he go earlier than that?
He went early. Yeah, I think he went
early. Dude, this is the QB draft. Remember?
That's true.
Everybody went early, Mox.
Where did Miller Moss?
Miller Moss 7.
There we go. 7th round. 7-3 right after you.
7-3.
Yeah.
That's in your neck of the woods. What are the thoughts on Miller Moss or backup Jada Mayava transfers in from UNLV? Fun player, but it's a big jump.
I don't have a lot of Miller Moss. Seems like a nice kid and all, but I've seen him throw a few times, and obviously one of them was live at the Holiday Bowl in San Diego for that game against Louisville, where guys were streaking down the field buck naked. And I'm talking wide open dudes left and right going down there. And then I saw him in the spring game, and he threw 3 interceptions in the first half, and they were on, sideline balls that are go balls that he was just shorting, and they were floating the receivers had no shot on these balls. They were really bad interceptions. So I've seen the yin and the yang of Miller Moss. I would say from a just a physical perspective, he doesn't do much to wow you. He's just kind of 6 feet tall. Doesn't have the big, huge arm. It seems like he's a 60-year system guy, but doesn't wow you with the physical tools. So I do think that there's a world that exists where Moss gets off to a slow start and they try out Jaden Mayava. There's a reason why they brought him in. They want to at least have some sort of a breaking piece of glass option. So I'm kind of steering away from him at that price. I would have to get a little further down the board in order for me to feel completely comfortable with him. And the schedule is a certifiable nightmare. I mean, talk about going up in terms of talent. They have number 3 toughest schedule in the country, according to Phil Steele. Start out with LSU, get Utah State week 2, and then bye, and then at Michigan, and then Wisconsin, and then fine at Minnesota's cool, but then Penn State, then at Maryland, then Rutgers, which is a tough draw. They play slow and they do everything. So, and they also draw Nebraska and Notre Dame. It's like Nebraska, as Zach will tell you, Zach Hall, has a much better defense this year. Their front seven, I think, is going to be pretty good. So that's a tough draw going from the Pac-12 to that in the Big Ten. So I do have my questions about Miller Moss. I'm avoiding him in this format. I don't have a lot of shares.
Well, if you're taking him, you got to take him in the first 6 rounds, and that's essentially
what
that just eliminates any risk in that select, or it means only risk in that selection. Like, you really need him to hit if you're taking him probably as your QB 2 or 3.
That's QB2 territory at 6, the 6-7 turn. For Matt, that's QB1. That's not even. He wouldn't even look at a QB at that 6-7 turn.
Yeah, that's QB half.
Matt, seriously, he was on the 6-7 turn. You take a QB.
Oh no. Don't do it, Mox. Don't do it to me.
You have no idea where I'm going with this.
I don't, but
wow, Mox, you got to get him. You got to get him back here.
Okay, perfect. That's not at all who I want. Oh no, that's not who I want. Okay, I thought I clicked on the wrong person. I was about to get upset.
I don't know why your draft is so far behind, considering we're at the.
Whoa. Oh yeah, I don't know why the screen is either. Yeah.
It's kind of early in this. We're around 16. Why not? Why not?
I mean, me and Mox have talked a lot about it because he seems to be going here every time we do the draft. I think there's a realistic shot he leads the room at Clemson. I think people forget about him because he was injured last year, but I think he could lead that room again. One of my last wide receiver picks, probably. Like, I don't think it's a bad snag. And then I wanted Orgy just for the rushing upside. I think there's a realistic shot he puts up at least really good rushing stats to when Baron Morton eventually probably gets hurt at some point in time this season, because I'm going to need him at quarterback.
Everybody wants to have an Orgy.
Everybody.
Yeah.
At least once. Well, and then we're talking about Alex Orgy, right? The football player.
Just Alex Orgy.
Yeah.
No double entendre.
Oh, here we go. This is Ross. You came to the perfect place here. We got 2 of the, in my opinion, best minds in CFF here. So Ross Watson in the chat asks, "I'm 100% brand new to fantasy college football. Any beginner tips or strategy to bestow?" I'll let you go first, Froton, since you were the guest of honor.
Well, it's elementary, my dear Ross Watson. I'm sorry, I've been waiting to get that one out. That's a pretty good one for Sherlock Holmes. But thank you, Ross Watson. In terms of beginner stuff, I would say do what you can to consult some of the experts in the space. It's come a long way in terms of the information available to you now. Back when I started, it's you didn't even want to talk about when I started, but even 5 years ago, the space has changed so dramatically to where there are several different sets of opinions you can find. This is a huge space, 134, 135 teams in the FBS, overall landscape. We're doing best ball here with 70 teams, but it's just such a vast landscape. There's so many different opinions. There's so many different ways to do, go about your roster construction. I would just say best thing is to get a hold of some of the cheat sheets, listen to some of the Campus to Canton, myself on CFF All Access, BTR, those guys are great. Bring the Red Shirt. Obviously, Jared at Chasing the Net, he does great. The G5 Hive for all the G5 stuff that you're going to find. And read the work of Volume Pigs, who's a stud. All that just off the top of my head. Obviously, all these guys here that we're talking about. So there's a wealth of information. Fantrax itself is the one place that has seasonal leagues. You're going to find my work there. You'll also find John Lobb, Luke Probasco, as well as a couple other writers. So there's a lot of resources. And I would go and try to take a litmus test, read information, see what you think fits, do a little bit of your own research, and cultivate, some CFF knowledge, and then get out there and get after it. Because the best way to learn is by doing. You get one season where you get your feet wet, and just if you don't have a great draft, you don't feel comfortable to draft, don't worry about it, because especially in the seasonal leagues, those rosters are turning over so rapidly. You can really make a big change in these 12-team leagues, the regular size leagues with 130, 170 teams. You can really make a difference if you're paying attention and you're hitting the wire and you're making sure that you're taking care of your rooms. So I just think that just staying on top of things is going to be the best way that you succeed. And there's plenty of information available.
Ditto. Excellent advice. There's a lot of info available, and it feels like it's doubled or tripled in the last 3 or 4 years. It really, really has. I mean, it's never been more accessible to get into college fantasy in any capacity, whether you're like just dipping your toe in. I think this is a good place to start. Power 4 only leagues. They don't have to worry about the other 64 teams, which can get a little daunting. And I think it's a big barrier to entry for a lot of people, but there's a lot out there. And I think you're going to see a lot more come to with the expansion of the game. The excitement around college fantasy in general is growing to like really loud levels. And I think Matt and I see it on our end, and I think Eric, you see it. And I mean, it's pretty insane.
So exciting. I mean, I'm ready here. I'm here for it. I think we all are, but
you're an OG. You're really an OG in this space.
I don't know anybody who's been doing it longer than me, frankly. I've been doing it since 2001, where Luke Staley was my inaugural pick, as you know. It's my handle on Underdog, so you can find me there. But yeah, I've been doing it since then, and I've been doing it longer than anybody that I know. Maybe Mitch Hart's been longer. That's about the only one, I would think, that is out there. But in terms of creating consistent content and out there on the airwaves, yeah, I am the OG. I think John started in like 08, 09. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you were back in the days when we were hand calculating stuff. There was not an option.
3 straight years, our first 3 years until U Sports. We had to use a website called U Sports. Dude, they were a godsend for us. Like, nothing but respect to usports.com. They were nice enough to do our stuff for like, geez, until CBS had it in like 2010. We switched over to CBS from 2010 to 2012. And then I think, like Real Time Sports might have done it at one point. I don't know, I forget. But then I think we went to U Sports and then Fantrax finally. So, dude, U Sports was a straight HTML site that you just whatever you could get, anything we could get.
Yeah, and Jay's asking in the chat, where can you actually play season log non-best ball league on? The only place to do it currently is Fantrax.
It's fantrax.com. 100%. It's the only one you can do it. But you have to gather up a bunch of your buddies. So that's the rub with Fantrax. It's like, okay, yeah, you can start, but gather up 11 of your friends and, go get together, collect it, start the league, put it all together, and you can have it on Fantrax. So it's like there isn't the portal like there is for Underdog, where there's a user base and you can immediately attract people. You funnel them right into drafts and boom, there you are. You're ready to go. It's just such an advantage that they have. So, I mean, we're very lucky to have this as it is, but Fantrax for the rest.
Yeah, this is such a game changer because, one, it's so easily accessible. 2, it appeals to a very broad audience, even from like a strategy standpoint. Like a lot of NFL people were playing these that don't have a lot of college experience, haven't been playing CFF like some of us have. I haven't been playing as long as Froton has, but I've been playing for a couple of years.
You've been playing.
I've been playing a little bit. It's just really interesting to see kind of where we come, and I think it's really exciting to see where we're going to go because there's a lot of changes coming to the NCAA and the way that rights and media access works. That a lot of restrictions that have been are frankly draconian are probably going to get repealed soon. So I think you're going to see a lot more people talking about CFB, which is, I mean, that's awesome. Just the growth of the sports and the formats, fantastic.
Amen, my brother. I completely agree. I can't wait. And this is another example of the waiting on QBs. Matt goes and grabs Vandegrift. You got Nate Rebel Yarnell. Malik Murphy, Duke. I mean, here we are. I mean, when I'm looking at the wide receivers in round 18, Colby Young, Noah Thomas, Pat Bryant, Jimmy Horn, is there a real difference between round 15 and round 18 with those wideouts? It's pretty much dart throw territory all right there. I mean, after you get to like Malik Benson, probably, who's having good buzz out of camp, you're throwing darts.
I was trying to find. Yeah, I mean, you can go to round 14 too.
Round 14, yeah.
And have the same conversations. Wide receiver is just so flat. And I don't mean that in a good way either. I think you need to prioritize receiver early because you're having to take dart throws rounds 13 to 20. Like I just think you have to end up doing that to have an optimal build. But I mean, you can obviously hit on the late guys like and be successful. It's just
yes,
there's a big difference between the two.
You're gonna have to. The team that wins this is gonna hit on a wide receiver later on from rounds 15 to 20. I sincerely believe that. You're gonna have to do that. That back end is going to propel you. So, I mean, who you hit with, it really is just it's a dance. Any of those guys can go in any pretty much different order, just depending on how the ADP is situated.
Yeah, and I find myself trying to like take different stabs on players. Like I have my favorites. I took Malachi Riley in the 19th round, Arizona wide receiver, sliding into Jacob Cowing's spot. I think I was taking a lot of Montana Lamoni's Craig early. Now his ADP's gone up. I've pivoted that way. Jamal Edrine going to Purdue, stacked him with Hudson Card. I think there's an outcome there where he's fairly productive. So I'm just trying to take shots at that point, trying to find a guy that I think is just going to massively outperform his ADP.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of that, like when we're coming to the late running back shots, Jalen Knighton for SMU. I mean, there's two guys there. We talked about the team. I like the team. Came from Miami. He's a little thin in terms of his body, but damn, he hits home runs. Certainly have value there in the 19th. Stranger things have happened. Damon Claiborne has the starting job over there at Wake Forest. Certainly. Duke, Jaquez Moore should probably be the number one guy there. Decent shots there for the running backs. Dallin Hayden is a guy I've had a lot. He goes in the 17th round here, and like you talked about, they're going to run the ball more. There isn't a lot there to really take away from him, and we know that he has an explosive profile from Ohio State and catch the ball. So I feel like that's a nice fit. Round 17, great shot. Any of those guys you like, the running backs? Oh, and Khalil Mullings, who you got. Let me give it up to you, Mox. Khalil Mullings. I think he's probably the 1A at Michigan. I think so. I've been drafting him that way. I just took him in the 50-teamer in the 4th round to pair with Trevion Henderson. I think he was RB 21 in the Big Ten AAC draft. I just think the performance metrics. I'm going to give you a little something here. Like I said, I've been in the lab cooking. Your boy. Let me give you a little bit of that on the on his front. I'm sorry, I got to go and find it here. Talk while I go and look at it. Anyone you like?
Yeah, I mean, Mullings is a big one for me. Just the talk that we've seen out of Sean more recently.
Junior. just got.
Oh my!
It wasn't me.
Who
It
let Felix in
wasn't
this
me.
draft? Gosh, yeah. I mean, I took Mullings. Matt, you took Jacoz Moore.
Yeah.
I like Rashad Amos. I've been drafting some of him. Think the upside's pretty cool there. But I try to knock out my running backs before this and then take one of those guys.
Yeah.
Because it is the same with wide receiver, right? I think you can take wide receivers late, but I don't want to be drafting all of my receivers late. I don't want to be drafting a good chunk of my running backs late. And if you go early quarterback, it's kind of your only option, which scares me.
It's true. Here's a little something for you when it comes to Donovan Edwards. Rushed for 10 or more yards on 9 of his 119 carries last year. That's 9th worst amongst Power 5 conference running backs. Picked up first downs on 13% of his rush attempts last year. That is the worst rate amongst FBS running backs. On the other hand, Khalil Mullings picked up first downs on 77% of his rushing attempts in short yardage situations. It's the best in the Big Ten, and averaged 7.2 yards per scrimmage touch, 5th best among Big Ten running backs. I just feel like you get Mullings out there, and he takes immediately that Corum role. And I don't know if Donovan Edwards is good enough to be able to do anything beyond that passing down work. And even on passing downs, he got 20-plus yards on just 2 of his 30 receptions last year. So it's not like he's extremely explosive where you have to have him out there. I don't know. I don't know if Donovan Edwards ever figures it out. I love Khalil Mullings in the 16th round, and I think he could be a league winner.
I like to hear that because I'm drafted next to Matt, and like Matt's cooking me on this turn just over and over. So I know he's not going to take a Michigan running back. So I felt pretty good about not getting sniped on that one.
It hurt enough taking Alex Orji, so yeah.
Ooh, I love that Kendrick Law pick too. Kendrick Law pick. Why not?
I have a really tough time deciphering that receiver room, so I'm just taking shots at this point.
No problem. He's the outside option. They got him manufactured touches last year. He broke 8 tackles and 15 receptions. I mean, that's a plus over a 50% broken tackle rate. And given he was used as kind of, in the jet motions and on screens and what have you, but it was clearly a priority to get the ball in his hands last year, with Kalen DeBoer being the way he is likely to be throwing at least 35 times a game, where Alabama threw 24 times a game last year. I mean, just the opportunity is going to be there. Or it seems like an incumbent. So, dude, literally the last pick in round 20, Kendrick Law, the power 3, potent offense, wide receiver 3 theory. I think you're going to get 2 guys. It's not just going to be Jeremy Bernard who hits. I think you get another fantasy relevant guy out of that room.
I hope so. You're speaking my language.
I like it, buddy. I like it.
I also like taking Ryan Williams there. I think he's good chance he's going to start potentially too. So a lot of different options you can take at the end of drafts. Matt, how did you like your build? You waited on quarterback, which has kind of been half the topic of the show, fading early quarterbacks. You put it into practice. I took Dylan Gabriel at the second, so practice what I preach, whatever. You did it. How did you like the way your team came out?
I mean, I like it. It's actually ended up being one of my favorite teams. I still wish I could have gotten one of the guys I wanted earlier at quarterback, whether that was, so it was really because people were taking him in front of me. Like I would have gone Cam Ward earlier. There was another quarterback that was sniped right ahead of me earlier as well. I can't remember who it was that I wanted. So that was why then I just kept waiting. As soon as those guys kept coming off the board, it's like, all right, well, I'm not just going to reach on a guy. And then I kept hoping that I feel like I always say his last name wrong. Is it Metier?
Metier.
I think it's just
Metier. Okay. I mean, I'm horrible pronouncing names. So Metier, when I saw that he was still there, I was like, all right, like at some point I'm probably just going to have to reach at him. I think I took him a little bit ahead of his ADP, but not much. And then I was like, I'm just going to try and build in some guys with upside. Like I said, I mean, Baron Morton, if he stays healthy, has a chance to throw for a ton of yards, ton of touchdowns. Alex Orji, the rushing upside. Brock Vandagriff, same thing. I mean, I really like Connor Wigman, but I know, we were talking about it when the pick went off the board that he's been going late. I think a lot of people are worried about him. Texas A&M, if you're people who haven't been paying attention, if you're looking at this from the outside, Texas A&M hasn't had really a sexy offense the past couple of years. Plus, Connor Wigman has been hurt a lot as well. Looked really good in small sample sizes, but hasn't stayed healthy. But Colin Klein coming over, bringing that Kansas State offense. Wegman, a little bit more of an athlete than I think he gets credit for, so can bring some rushing. Not going to be like Will Howard rushing, but can do some of that. So I just kind of wanted to go with those guys. I really like my running backs and wide receivers. Who was it? Jay actually sniped me. I was really hoping Claiborne or Robachek, who went right before you as well, Mox. We're going to fall to me for running back, just as my last running back.
You can't get sniped if you're at the 1-1 and someone else is at the 112. That's just
Sure
you not taking. That's just not you taking ADP into account.
I mean,
bro.
I didn't. No, Claiborne. I think his ADP is closer to where I was. So like, I thought he'd make it back to me. He did not. Robachek didn't either. So I actually went with what you guys were talking about. Take a guy who I think could be the RB1 in that offense, and that's Dante Dowdell with Nebraska. I know a lot of people expect it to be Gabe Ervin, but man, that dude hasn't done anything. I thought last year he had a chance to break out, couldn't do it. Again, I know Mox isn't the biggest, I always call him Satterfield fan. But his running backs have, for the most part, kind of produced, and I do think Nebraska's offense takes a big step forward this year. Like I'm all in on that. That second year with Matt Rule always seems to be really good, so I think Dowdell has a chance to be really good. I think Mox froze on his Froton. So,
nice. Sorry, Mox. I apologize. Well, I like it.
He looks.
Like
I don't know. Look at him. His face right there. As soon as it said Dante Dowdell, it froze up on us.
Started frowning about Dante Dowdell. He didn't like that. Well, oh well. We got sad face Moxley, I guess, to bring us out. Oh, he's back.
There we go. He's back. I was about to say. Go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say, this was fun. First of all, I always enjoy these live streams. I don't love my build, but I like Matt's build. So as the live show split pot rule comes in, and Froton's here, so Matt will just split it 3 ways. It'll be great.
Absolutely.
That's right. There's a winner in here, Matt. I feel it, buddy. Nice work.
I mean, we've talked about this behind the scenes. We all actually really hope Felix wins it because he just doesn't know at all what he's doing, and it would just be the funniest thing in the world if Felix was the one who ended up winning it. But I obviously hope I win it, and I would be happy to split it with you guys if it's this team. I do want to.
Felix is single-handedly bringing Peyton Thorne's ADP into the teens. He's bringing him up. He is going to make that happen.
I did want to ask a Froton here because Jay asked in the chat earlier, but I wanted to wait until the draft was done. He asked if you could grade his team. He was picking out of the 12 spot. So I'll just kind of read you his team real quick in order. He went Phil Maffa.
The first four. The first four start.
Phil Maffa, Darius Taylor, Jeremy Bernard, Garrett Nussmeyer. Then he went Rashad Owens, Kyle Williams, Ches Malusi, Josh Hoover, Lenora Sellers, Parker Jenkins, Jacoby George, Elijah Badger, the wide receiver from Mississippi State, Kelly. I'm going
to
thank you. Aiden Childs, Curtis Rourke, Penny Boone, Keanu Hill, Jimmy Horn Jr., Kyle Morlock, and then DeMond Claiborne.
Wow. I mean, it's a pretty good team. Go up to the top a little bit, get to like round 5. Yeah, dude, I like all the way up to Kyle Williams. What I do have a little question about, I don't know what to think about Wisconsin with Shea Malusi and Tawee Walker. Like I've analyzed that and I've gone up and down it, and he's prone to injury. Malusi, he's older, broke like 2.5, like a 2.5 yak pretty much every year. There isn't anything particularly special about him. I feel like Tawee Walker could take that job. I'm a little concerned about it. So that's in terms of the running backs. Go down a little bit more. So he's kind of a part-timer. I like Jenkins. Then go down a little further. Yeah, Penny Boone, part-time. We'll see about that. I'm a little worried about the room and Claiborne. That's fine. That's a good late shot. Worried a little bit about the running back depth. Really needs Malusi to go and hit to be that running back 3, but otherwise pretty good. Like the build itself, it's very logical. He's taken what's given to him there. He's on the turn. I like how he addressed quarterbacks because I do like Rourke a lot. Man, that Indiana, I know Jared isn't an Indiana guy. Thinks it'll take a year for Cignetti, but man, getting rid of the divisions helped Rutgers and Indiana more than any two teams in all of the Power Five Power Four, in my opinion, because that Indiana schedule is real nice, and Cignetti can put up points. I think they're going to be pretty good and better than people think. Getting Rook in the 15th round is a good deal, and just another example. Matt and Jay are both good examples of what you can do at quarterback later on in the drafts.
Did Mox freeze again? I think he did. Oh no, there he is. There he is. He's back.
Kid's back.
Yeah, can you? Am I better?
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were just kind of looking at something, so I thought you froze. So no, you're good.
Oh no, I was reading something. Well, if that's it, Eric, is there anything that you want to talk about, promote on your end? I know you're doing this stuff with Fantasy Points. You have stuff coming out with NBC Sports. What's on your what's your next couple weeks look like before the kickoff of the season?
Yeah, well, I will be at Bet Bash next week, Wednesday and Thursday, before going to the Fantasy Football Expo. So I'm a traveling man. In addition to that, I will have beginning to put out the Big Ten team previews, which I do very thorough and accurate analysis of each one of those, as well as I'll be putting out some more. I'll have the P4 and G5 drafts, which Moxley participated in as well. And I'll be putting out my tight end column as well on Fantrax. So plenty to be on the lookout for myself and Campus to Canton, just cranking out the college fantasy related content.
Yeah, I think we're all really excited about the direction that college fantasy is heading in general. Unless y'all have anything else, we good? All right.
That's right.
You can find everything I do at Chris Moxley 19 on Twitter. You can find everything Matt does at Sports Fanatic MB, and you can find the one and only Eric Froton. Thanks so much for joining us, by the way, at CF Froton on Twitter. NBC Sports, Road World, Fantasy Points, Fantrax. Man is everywhere. Man, if you want to make money just with CFE player props, and you're not following Eric Froton, you're just doing it wrong. That's bottom line. That's the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Campus Canton YouTube page. Like this video, and hopefully we can do more of these